Shalom, you reached the He Prayed channel. My name is Azim Mawath. But first and foremost, I want to say call Halayim, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harakak Double honors to the apostles and elders of 7:13:19, where I learned this truth from and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third consists of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to the Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people will come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's an honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Shem Yahweh for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Shem Yahweh allowed us to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect. This from NY Times, New York Times. It says Trump considers Overhaul a refugee system that would favor white people, so-called. Says the proposal would transform a program aimed at helping the most vulnerable people in the world into one that gives preference to mostly white people who say they are being persecuted, which is a path for the so-called you-know-who. The Trump administration is considering a radical overhaul of the U.S. refugee system that would slash the program to its bare bones while giving preference to English speakers, white South Africans, and Europeans who oppose migration, according to documents obtained by the New York Times. The proposals, some of which already have gone into effect, would transform a decades-old program aimed at helping the world's most desperate people into one that conforms to Mr. Trump's vision of immigration, which is to help mostly white people who say they are being persecuted while keeping the vast majority of other people out, which, that's a good thing. The plans were presented to the White House in April and July by officials in the state and Homeland Security departments after President Trump directed federal agencies to study whether refugee resettlement was in the interest of the United States. And the reason why I say it's a good thing, because the more Edomites here, the more are going to get burnt up. It says Mr. Trump had suspended refugee admissions on his first day in office and solicited the proposals about how and whether the administration will continue the program. Trump administration officials have not ruled out any of the ideas, according to people familiar with the planning, although there is no set timetable for approving or rejecting the ideas. The officials spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the confidential plans. The proposed changes will put new emphasis on whether applicants could be able to assimilate into the United States, directing them to take classes on American history and values and respect for cultural norms. The proposals also advised Mr. Trump to prioritize Europeans who have been targeted for peaceful expression of views online, such as opposition to mass migration or support for populist political parties. That appeared to be a reference to the European far right political party Alternative for Germany, whose leaders have trivialized the Holocaust, revived Nazi slogans, and uh, denigrated foreigners. Uh, Vice President J.D. Vance has criticized Germany for trying to suppress the views of the group, which is known as the AfD. A senior official said the Trump administration was monitoring the situation in Europe to determine whether anyone would be eligible for refugee status. The official spoke on condition of anonymity because the plan had not been finalized. Mr. Trump enacted some of the proposals in the documents even before the plans were submitted to him, including slashing refugee admissions and offering priority status to Afrikaners, the white minority that once ran South Africa's brutal apartheid system. Mr. Trump has claimed that the Afrikaners face racial persecution in their home country, a claim vigorously disputed by government officials there. Police statistics do not show that white people are more vulnerable to violent crime than other people in South Africa. Taken together, the proposals provide a window into Mr. Trump's intentions for a program that has come to symbolize America's role as a sanctuary. Mr. Trump and many American voters have rejected that rule after years of record illegal crossings at the U.S. Mexico border. Although the refugee program, which its meticulous screening processes and years long waits, is considered the right way of seeking protection in the United States, Mr. Trump has made clear shit, he wants to crack down on immigration in general, both legal and illegal. So this video today is going to be used with Copilot. So keywords to break down: stranger often refers to foreigners, immigrants, or non-Israelites. Refugee, or it could refer to an Israelite living in a foreign land. Refugee, not a biblical term per se, but conceptually linked to sojourner or fugitive. Justice, fairness, righteousness, equity, and treatment. Oppression, unjust treatment or control, often condemned in Scripture. Right. So, first precept: Yahweh's command to care for strangers. So, Leviticus. This is Leviticus chapter 19, verse 33. It says, "And if a stranger," so let's go to the interlinear, gar, go to the root, gur.
Strong's H 1481. Gur. Gur.
Um, to turn aside from the way, hence to turn aside to anyone, and in the common use of the language. To tarry anywhere as a sojourner and stranger, to sojourn, used of individuals, uh, of the land in which one, Slakia, of the land in which anyone tarries as a stranger, to sojourn. Outline of biblical uses: to sojourn, abide, dwell in, dwell with, remain, inhabit, be a stranger, be continuing, surely.
Strong's H 1616. Gar, gar. And the form just below that, Geir, Geir.
For outline of biblical usage: a temporary inhabitant, a newcomer lacking inherited rights. Also, uh, a sojourner, stranger, foreigner, a person living out of his own country. Right? So when you think about it, here in America, we're sojourners because this ain't our country. Going back to Leviticus chapter 19, verse 34, it says, "But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself." So where's the love? Esau. "For ye were strangers in the land of Egypt," which, that don't apply to Esau, to these Edomites, because they're not the real Israelites, even though they, perpetrate. It says, "I am Yahweh your power. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin shall ye have. I am Yahweh your power, which brought you out of the land," and it should say Martazarian. "Therefore shall ye observe all my statutes and all my judgments, and do them. I am Yahweh." So, let's see what it says in the NLT. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 33 in the NLT, it says, "Do not take advantage of foreigners who live among you in your land. Treat them like native born Israelites and love them as you love yourself." Because a lot of those foreigners were Israelites, but they weren't born in the land. "Remember that ye were once foreigners living in the land of Martazarian. I am Yahweh your power." And then, that's pretty much the point. So, next precept, Deuteronomy chapter 10. This is Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 18. It says, "He doth execute the judgment of the fatherless," you know, um, those who, lost their father, "and widow," women who have lost their husband, and loveth the stranger, and giving him food and raiment. But where, like I said, does Esau abide in the spirit of the scriptures? It says, love ye therefore the stranger, for ye were strangers in the land of Martazarian. So all the things that these devils are doing is showing you slowly but surely that their horns are protruding. It says, co-pilot, the Most High commands his people to treat strangers with love and equity, not hostility. So that's another crack at the Edomite, man. Doesn't it not say that in the scriptures that the kingdoms will come to worship? This is Exodus chapter 22, verse 21. You must not mistreat or oppress foreigners in any way. But Trump just sent the Gestapo, the Fourth Reich's Gestapo, to tackle immigration, the hit stick tackle. And there's already been casualties, blood on the leaves. Remember, you yourselves were once foreigners in the land of Martazarian. you know? So for a group of people that, I don't like to use the word, but swear on the Bible, they sure do not follow it. And that should flicker a light in your brain or something to make you, read the room and realize the obvious. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12. Hold on. Oh, it doesn't let you do it on this one. 12 and 22. It says, therefore, whereas thou dost chasten us, which chasten goes into discipline, thou scourgest our enemies 1,000 times more. So just imagine the hell that Israel was put through by the hands of Yahweh Shem Shah, our power. Just imagine what he's going to do to these heathen nations, to the intent that when we judge, we should carefully think of thy goodness, and we ourselves are judged. We should look for mercy. Right. Because, when that judgment does come, everybody wants mercy. But some lack a track record of showing mercy. And it says in the scriptures, those who show no mercy shall receive no mercy. This is a co-pilot. It says the Most High punishes nations for unjust treatment of others, especially the vulnerable. And Jake has been mistreated here, and that's the reason why our people are in such confusion, because they don't really know the fight or the conflict that is going on between Jacob and Esau in the spirit, man. And they don't understand that they don't have a part in this world, despite them desperately trying to fit in to no avail. This is Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17. It says, learn to do well, seek judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow. And Esau, he doesn't do any of that, man. You know, did he not separate families? Did he not kill husbands and hang them? Did he not, you know, grape the women? And, you know, I'm pretty sure only in America, I was gonna say Americas, you find such a high amount of, you know, posters of missing children. You know, this is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus chapter 4, verse 1. It says, my son, defraud not the poor of his living. And that's what Esau has done. Even, you know, with modern day jobs, not paying everybody when the sun goes down, or even the compensation that our people deservedly deserve for building up this country. It says, and make not the needy eyes to wait long. You know, and this happened to me a year or so ago after I basically, what do they call it? Construction. Did a little bit of construction and remodeled this house and backyard and didn't get paid for it, man. And you know, I put a curse on that dude that didn't pay me. And through a mutual friend that asked, have I talked to that person? I told him no. And they continued, did you hear what happened to him? And I told her, I don't give a fuck. You know? And then they left it at that, left it alone. So to this day, I don't know. I don't know if the motherfucker's alive or dead. But for me to be working all those days and you're not gonna pay me for my money, yeah, I'm gonna ask my power to bring about judgment upon you. And it just so happened it was upon him and his whole family. Ain't talked to him going on a year. It says, make not a hungry soul sorrowful, neither provoke a man in his distress. Right. It says, add not more trouble to a heart, mind that is vexed, and defer not to give to him that is in need. Especially if they're a believer, man. And me personally, I even give what I don't even got. And I've always been a person like that. I would give, my last. And sometimes I'll even make an excuse just to do good, you know? But that's just me because of the lessons that I was taught, that I've learned by being observant and going through certain things growing up in life. It says, and also that was one of my conditions that I made with myself before I came into the truth was to be a sacrifice. Whether that's monetarily or you know being a designated driver, being observant, being circumspect, having discernment. You know, it says, "Reject not the supplication of the afflicted, neither turn away thy face from a poor man. Turn not away thy eye from the needy, and give him none occasion to curse thee. For if he curse thee in the bitterness of his soul, his prayers shall be heard of him that made him." You know? So you got to do good unto others, man. And sometimes, I'll be in the spirit of I don't want to do shit. Like, I think a couple weeks ago, when this end was asking for something to eat, and, all the enmity, that the Most High is putting in our spirits to have for these niggas, was like an avalanche all at once. But like I said, you know, I remember, Apostle Tahar helping somebody out, and that just, put the spirit on me to go ahead and help her out. But yeah, going back to Copilot, it says justice is a divine mandate, not a political option. So what the hell is Esau doing, man? He only wants his people here. He doesn't have respect for you tribes. He wants you tribes up. Really, he wants you tribes destroyed, non-existent. This is Jeremiah chapter 22, verse 3. It says, "Thus saith Yahweh, execute ye judgment and righteousness, and deliver the spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor, and do no wrong. Do no violence to the stranger, the fatherless, nor the widow, neither shed innocent blood in this place. For if ye do this thing indeed, then shall there enter in by the gates of this house kings sitting upon the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses, he and his servants and his people. But if ye will not hear these words, I swear by myself, saith Yahweh, that this house shall become a desolation." So that's heavy. He said, "I swear by myself, saith Yahweh, that if we don't do what?" Let's read verse 3 again. It says, "Thus saith Yahweh, execute ye judgment and righteousness." Does Esau execute judgment and righteousness according to the law, statutes, and commandments? Hell no. "And deliver the spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor. But Esau, he is the oppressor. And guess who is the spoiled? You Israelites. It says, and do no wrong, but that's not in the Edomites' mental framework, man, to do no wrong, right? It says, do no violence to the stranger, the fatherless, nor the widow, neither shed innocent blood in this place. Right. But Esau, the so-called white man, has done all that. So let's go to the next scripture. And this is just a co-pilot, going based upon it. Second Ezra, chapter 15, verse 10. It says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. You Jakes being locked up and taken to those concentration camps and killed, exterminated for your organs, for your melanin, right? I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, which this Egypt is talking about America. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, as that before is dealing with Martazarian or Mizraim, and will destroy all the land thereof. America shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. So going back to co-pilot, the Most High intervenes when his people are oppressed or displaced. So we know that we're in those times in which Yahweh Shah is going to return, man. As it says at the end, it shall speak and not lie. So goes into reflection and questions. How does your community treat strangers or refugees? This is to you so-called white people, man. You Edomites. Are there policies or attitudes that contradict the Most High's commandments or commands? And that's to you Edomites. What does justice look like, or what does justice look like in your daily life? So another co-pilot scripture breaking down this article dealing with Trump, aka narrow. Trump considers overhaul a refugee system that would favor white people, so-called. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified, and I'm going to say shalom.